Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Leaders Dojo. Let me try and cover up my screen properly here. There you go. My shelves are showing, and my shelves are quite a mess. So, welcome to another episode of the Leaders Dojo, and this is the first episode of the Changemaker series. Some of you might remember I was supposed to have Jane on last month, on last month's show, but unfortunately, I had a motorbike accident right on that afternoon, and I spent, I spent the 8:30 session in the emergency room of Sunway Hospital, and I didn't get out of the emergency room until about 12:30, and it was freezing cold inside there. But thank God, nothing major, just a little bit of damage to my knee, a slightly torn ligament, but it's healing well. Thank you very much for all of you who have sent your well wishes and sympathies. I really, really appreciate it. Well, people say LinkedIn is a very stuffy platform, but from the response of that, from when I shared the news, I really appreciate. I haven't met most of you, but it seems like we are friends already, right? And I really, really appreciate this connection that we have. All right. So, just to start off the show, let me introduce myself. My name is Chee-Seng. I'm a writer, content trainer, and thought leaders coach. And this show is called the Leaders Dojo, and it's actually an expression of a passion of mine, where I feel that I've also have a number of years as an educator, and I really feel that leadership is a topic that is not talked about enough, right? And what happened was earlier last year, I had joined with a few of my friends to do a training outfit. And the outfit is called CLA, Communications Leadership Academy, and this was really something up my alley, because I'm in communications business and I'm really, really interested in leadership and its applicability, especially in the real world. Okay, and you can see all of the people here are very highly qualified as communications people and leadership people. And one of the things that struck me was, I really wanted to start this conversation, and that's when I decided, okay, let's do something called the Leaders Dojo, right? Where we can actually gather together and talk about these issues, about leadership, about leading people, especially. And the Changemaker series is actually where I felt that, okay, we've been talking a lot about leadership and leading people, but what does it look like in the real world, right? What does all these mindsets of a leader look like in the real world? And that's where I decided, okay, let's talk to some people who are really, really making a difference in the world in what they do. All right, and I'm very glad to have with me tonight Miss Jane Rai, where we're going to be talking about her efforts to keep Kuala Lumpur's heritage alive. And I feel this is really special because partly because I think I'm what would you call it, banana. All right, I'm yellow on the outside, white on the inside. And growing up, and as a lot of people asked me before, how come I call myself Chee-Seng? How come I don't have an English name, right? Partly it's because I feel so disconnected from my heritage, right? I'm Chinese. I carry some kind of Chinese culture within me, but I'm also very westernized from my education and upbringing, but not as westernized as the people today. So I'm like neither here nor there. And so that's why I really do have a very strong interest in things heritage, right? And I'm really glad to have Jane with me tonight to talk about this. So without further ado, let me just officially start the show with this, and then we'll bring Jane on. Hi, Jane. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Chee-Seng.
Hi, hi, hi.
I'm so glad to
Okay.
hear that you're doing well.
Yeah, I mean, walking wise, I am like, I think back to almost 90% now.
That's
It's just that some of
fantastic.
the more flexible kind of movements, like squatting, maybe some more running, jumping,
Well,
turning is a little bit tricky.
you'll heal.
But
You'll heal.
yeah, yeah. So it'll take a couple of more weeks, I think, or maybe a month. But I'm really glad about the healing process. Let's say hi to a few people first. Daniel, he always call me Taiko. I don't know why. Maybe,
That's
wait,
pretty apt, I guess.
yeah, I'm older than him, I guess. So
Well,
yes, sudah
I
makan.
called
Thank
you
you
a
very much.
banana.
uh, and hi, hello, hello. Thank you for joining.
I see Melissa
And
there.
Melissa, yes, hi, Melissa.
Lovely.
Yeah, yeah. So drop us a line if you're, and let us know wherever you are, where you're joining us from. If you're out of Malaysia, do drop us a line and say hi. I mean, it'd be great to know where you're joining us from. Okay, Jane. So, oh, Oliver Udat, are you from Sabah, Oliver? Chimin. Ah, always glad to see Chimin. Chimin is faithfully always a faithful fan of the shows that I'm on. Thank you so much, Jimin.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jane, maybe we can start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Oh,
Oh,
I'd be
maybe
glad to
maybe
do
tell
that.
us about the video that we just watched, right? The about the walking tours.
Yeah, I'm glad you showed that
Yeah.
video. It's one of the walks that we do, and we produced that video in October last year, and it was a really good turnout. And I must tell you that video was produced complimentary to us because
Oh.
this individual believed in what we were doing and decided to participate in the walk. And he had his camera, and the next thing he knew, I knew that he surprised me with that video. So we're ever so grateful to Norman of Panoramic Media. It's such a wonderful feeling to know that one of the participants who's on your walk actually appreciate what you do. And so this is the kind of connection that we're looking at in the tours that we do. But anyway, just a little bit about myself. I'm just a plain Jane. If everybody knows the word plain Jane, um, I'm 63 years of age right now. I don't know whether you can see it on my face, but I am 63, and I have been uh, in the tourism sector for 33 years. And going into the tourism sector was purely by coincidence. It was never planned. Prior to that, I was working in a local media, and I didn't particularly like it there, so I left. And the next thing I said to myself, I would like to go back and do travel. This is something that I've always enjoyed doing. When I
Hmm.
was studying in the United Kingdom, and that was where in the United Kingdom I learned printing and periodical journalism. And one of the things that I did consistently in the UK was over every weekend I would take the A to Z guide book to London, and walk around or go from station to station. And that was the best way for me to discover the neighborhood that I was living in. It was something that I enjoyed doing. And when I came back here, I thought, why don't I continue with that passion of mine, with that interest of mine? And
Hmm.
so 33 years ago, I decided to go on a tour guide's course, and I enjoyed it. It was the best time of my life. I think I learned so much about my own country and many, many things about a country that I had taken for granted. And that got
Hmm.
me more inspired. So then I took up jobs in travel related companies, because that was the trend at that time. You associate yourself with a company. And I was actually doing typically tour guiding for them. But in the later years, I took up jobs as in the strata of the travel company. I took up management work, and in that management area, I found myself having to develop and craft itineraries or craft products so that that particular department could have some revenue, and you need to
Mm.
create wonderful product. That was how I got into this uh, business of walking tours. So I've been doing walking tours since 29 years ago. I had to do a walking tour, and that time it was for the company that I was working, and I came up with the first one that was a Sunday walk in Chinatown. Don't
Mm.
ask me why Chinatown was to me very fascinating, simply because there is a Sikh temple nearby where I had frequented from time to time. And so we were doing this in 1993, and our audience or our customers were mainly from Switzerland, from Austria, from Germany, and they all spoke English. So we were doing that almost every weekend. And I continued doing that wherever I could. And then came a bigger opportunity when I left the tourism industry, meaning I left my management position. At that time, DBKL had invited me, the KL City Hall had invited me to look at crafting some trails as part of
Mm.
their Kuala Lumpur tourism master plan. And so there was
Which
me
year
again.
was this, by the way?
It was in 2011 and 2012.
Right. Okay.
So 2012, we launched the Data Run Walk, and then subsequent to that, we crafted a few more. And the whole complimentary tours, which was offered by the City Hall to the world, we ran it for 6 years. And then we had a group of people whom we were working together. Obviously, I had to head the team and to prepare them, coach them, and to position the walk for the City Hall, which is slightly different than doing tours for an average tour company. So
Mm.
the positioning, like I said, was very different because we had to play an ambassador's role, and
Right.
that gave me a lot of opportunity to network with people from all over the world. You know how powerful it is, Chee-Seng, when you have a tour for 2.5 hours and you meet with 16 nationalities, and the
Mm.
conversation that you can have with these 16 nationalities is just so powerful. And I never forget some of this conversation and the things that I learned about what's happening in their country in terms of tourism planning, in terms of tourism marketing. So I was
Mm.
constantly studying and looking at what they were doing without having me to hire anyone or a consultant to tell me, but I could get some really raw material from them, raw
Mm.
information from them. And the friendship has been fantastic. So yeah, so basically that's what I've been doing.
And that's well, that's market intelligence, right? Not only market intelligence, that's industry
Absolutely.
intelligence for
Yeah.
free, and you make friends,
Absolutely. You know,
right?
I forgot to tell you this. One of the most wonderful thing that happened on my walking tours is that people who come on my tour, they don't know each other, so they meet for the first time. And what we do is we introduce everyone. We say, Ian is from UK, and Bostock is from Russia, or anyone. So they feel very comfortable when they are walking
Mm.
with you. They build that friendship. It makes it easier for me when they are not so cold to each other.
Yeah.
And I must say this, that romance had blossomed on my
Oh,
tours,
really?
and
Wow.
wedding bells had chimed. And this couple, particularly, I'll never forget them. He's Russian and she's English. And he worked in the UK, although he's Russian, and she lives in the UK. And after 6 months, they came back on the walk. And I was completely, uh, in awe when they came and said, "You know what, Jane, we got married. We met here and
Wow.
we want to thank you." I said, "Oh, wow." I said,
Wow.
you just send a message to the universe that you want the best, and the universe will do wonderful things for you.
Okay, maybe you
So
need to market some Cupid walks or something.
Cupid book. Yeah, absolutely. But
Okay, but
go ahead.
mm, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Being in the tourism industry, typically being a tourist guide, there's a lot of things one has to do. The back preparation,
Mm.
The amount of reading, the amount of discussion,
Mm.
the amount of preparation, coaching your fellow teams, making them understand, what are the key points that you want to highlight. At the same time, sharing their personal stories and engaging everybody to the point that
Yeah.
when they leave the tour, that they have become really so friendly with you and that they've learned so much from you. And people are very, very kind. We believe in this whole culture of reciprocating, and that's a business that we're in.
Mm.
You reciprocate the things that we've shared with you, because knowledge is so amazing. Today people are charging and taxing knowledge, but we are out on the street sharing what we really know. And
Mm.
that is so pertinent to what we do. And
And
basically,
the
tour
feedback
guides
that
are storytellers.
I've heard from the tours, the walking tours that you run, is consistently very good,
Yeah, well,
right?
thank you.
That's
We have to
okay. So
maintain
which
our brand,
mm,
uh, maintain the delivery standards, make sure everybody's safe. We give them a
mm,
certain degree of comfort, and
mm,
making everyone feel that you can become friends. Well, ever since we started this particular trail called the Free Walk Kuala Lumpur Unscripted, that's one of the brand that we started in January
mm,
2020. That was, if anybody
right
remember,
before the
that's the beginning of the COVID incidents
yeah.
that was taking place, and we've been doing it nonstop. And it's one of the easiest thing to do because you don't involve any transportation. Your transport is your leg, and
Mm,
your toolbox is your voice.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we
Which
are
actually
excited
brings me
to
to
be.
my first question, though.
Uh,
Nicely segues to my first question. So, how did you come about with the idea of preserving KL's heritage through these walking tours?
ah, Actually, this idea has been with me for some time. I never
Right.
really materialized it. Uh, as I continued in the tour guiding career, and based on the number of walks that I have done, I have sort of witnessed many structures, typically century-old buildings, that were being poorly maintained. And if and sometimes you give your voice to the right authority to ask them to look into this building and see whether the trees can be removed, the plants can be removed, or the paint is stripping off. So I thought, if I don't give my voice, um, then it would probably be ignored. I'm just a small little individual who feel that I could play that role. So I thought, why not educate the public? If I can be a bit of an influence and educate the public that keeping the heritage of your city is so
Mm,
important. And how we do that is simply through storytelling. In
mm,
our stories, we do talk about how important it is to maintain not only the legacies of the building, but the original structure of the building.
mm,
So I don't know. Many people who have gone to the Dataran Merdeka area have seen some of these colonial buildings in a state of disrepair.
mm.
And if you don't maintain them, the roof may collapse, the dome may just cave in. So things like that. That one of the sort of main spirit at the heart of this keeping KL's heritage alive is to allow people to have some emotional connection to the places. And
Mm,
on our tours, we take some old photos. So we stand at that very site where that photo was taken 100 years
mm,
ago, and we open it up
mm.
and let people see. They say, "Well, here you are. This is what that area looked like a century ago." And people are saying, "Wow, why can't they maintain this? Why did they have to extend it? Why do they have to change it?" So all the why. So sometimes
Yeah.
we don't respond to that because the very fact that they are already responding to it, it's a good sign for us.
And,
So
actually, I know how it feels because I come from Ipoh. Ipoh is my hometown, and Ipoh has a lot of heritage buildings in the
yes,
in the city
yes.
center. But as you said just now, a lot of them are in disrepair, and before the heritage tourism revival a couple of years back, most of them were like falling apart. The roofs have caved in, because I guess the second or third generation, they didn't want to maintain the property. Fires have broken up and they have not repaired it, things like that.
Yeah.
Those buildings that are still in use, they've been renovated beyond recognition.
Yeah, I think it's
uh,
important to
yeah.
really not only just the authorities who are involved in preserving the buildings, but for the public to lend their voice. I think the community is a very powerful voice to tell the authorities as well, and that's what we want. That's the message we want to put across to everyone who comes on our walking tour, and
Mm,
they begin to value what there is there. And if they were to tear that down, I mean, that's going to be difficult. I mean, there have been some controversial structures that have been torn down, which has irked the community.
mm,
Then again, so to me, keeping Kuala Lumpur's heritage alive through storytelling was perhaps the most fitting exercise for me, simply because I'm a tour guide and I'm a storyteller, and I thought,
mm,
why don't I share this with the community? I believe that education should be shared with people.
mm,
We can't be selfish with it, and the whole exercise is for people to come on our walk. Either they are just simply curious, and they want to know something. Uh, we want to
mm,
make sure that they walk away feeling very happy, that there are efforts being done to
mm,
keep things alive, even from a point of changing the street name. Um,
mm.
I get all sorts of reaction on, why can't we keep the street name? So why do we have to change it? Why can't we keep the original? So I'm always confronted with this thing, and I'm happy to hear that because it means they are responding quite well.
Yeah. And what but which leads me to my next question is, why do you think it's important to remember our past? um I want to get your opinion, because for me it's very nostalgic, right? And I mentioned
Yeah,
just now, I feel disconnected from the heritage.
yeah,
And I never understood the heritage of Ipoh as I was growing up. I didn't know that Ipoh was once the second most important city in Malaysia, and I didn't know the meaning behind all the street names and the architecture in the old town. I didn't know why it was called Old Town and New Town, things like that. Until much
yeah,
later when I discovered the history.
yeah,
Ironically, I had to go back as a tourist
yeah.
before I
It,
discovered all that.
the history part, the high story, we call it. Um, history, if you dig into it, it can reveal many, many things about how things came by. History simply tells us or tells you how places came about. And if you know not where you came from, you don't know where you're going. And this
Mm,
is the words mentioned by a friend of mine. He's a conservation architect, and his name is
mm,
Lim Teck Bain. And I
mm,
find that statement of his, the quote of his, make a lot of sense. And I must tell you this, that history was never really my favorite subject. I never
mm.
understood history in school when I was doing, in primary school. I don't know whether I had a bad teacher or I did not have
Most
someone
likely.
inspiring. But I found out that you could learn history in such a fun way,
Mm,
and I did that through tour guiding. So it took me a while really to get the real hang. Although I started tour guiding 33 years ago, it was only, I think, after 4 or 5 years that I really got to understand its significance. By doing many many other tours and a different
mm,
type of travel in activities. So tour guiding, walking tours is just one of the things that I decided that would be
mm,
most perfect for me, for someone of my age, and for someone who has a lot of knowledge in certain areas. I thought, why don't I continue doing that? So
mm,
that's how it that's how it all happened. But we
Yeah,
all must remember that our past, we need to know a little bit about our past, and we can't ignore that. So,
yeah. I really agree with that because, and especially your story about feeling bored about history in school. I remember feeling bored out of my mind, and I actually became very interested in history after I left school, or totally left school after college, right? And especially when YouTube became available, and started to watch documentaries, world history, and it's even interesting to learn about Malaysian history. There's so much history,
oh,
rich
plenty.
history in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never learned why we have 13 states and 3 federal territories in Malaysia,
Yeah,
right? But it turns out that every state has a very, very rich history, right? So,
absolutely.
and I think the key is to learn from history, right? What does it have there? What are the takeaways that we can take? I mean, the positives, the negatives, what we can learn
Yeah.
from there, and I think it's really true.
It's also, telling people what used to be there at one time. And we incorporate this: did you know, did you know, did you know,
Mm,
that this was here? And we justify it by showing old maps. Now, I'm going to open
mm,
up this map that was done 100 years ago. And
mm,
this is the town map, and look where things were. Today, you
mm,
don't see the coolie depot, or you don't see the river anymore. The river has been straightened and it's no longer
mm,
here. So certain natural incident has, created different positioning, and we like to give people a sense of the place. It's always good to know what was there at one time so that people can appreciate it. This is what we do because we dig into the history, and we think it's good for people to know.
mm,
If I were to ask you, Chee-Seng, or if I ask the audience anywhere, did you know that the oldest mosque in the city, which is the Jamaat Mosque, how did it ever come to be put in a little piece of space or a town, which was a bit of a wasteland? And what was on that piece of land? It's staggering. And people say, "What? I didn't know that this was a burial ground." So we show them all the tombstones. And, oh, we have a
Oh, Jane,
mosque right now,
we
a
should have
burial
we should
ground.
have thought of doing a little quiz for our audience. Ah, man.
Yeah, wonderful. We will. We can. So in a way, I thought that I could play that very simple social influencing role. Continue doing the leadership that I enjoy doing, uh, preparing the tour guides, having regular meetings with them. How do we deliver this piece of information? How can we say it in different ways?
Mm.
Um, but did you know, Chee-Seng, that crossing Kuala Lumpur Road is an adventure?
As in
It's a very
the
sporting
risk of
adventure.
getting mowed down by traffic.
Yeah. Well, how do we cross a road when you are in a hurry to get across to the other side? So we learn how to use our palm, and
Yeah.
we teach everybody to raise their palm high up so that the cars can slow down for you. And
Mm.
if you are alone in a group raising your hand, it doesn't have an impact. But if 20 people or 10 people are walking and all of them are raising hands, chances are people will slow down. And we've been doing this for many, many years, and we've seen it work. So, uh, putting this idea across to people that crossing KL Road is an adventure already gets them excited. Yeah. And, some of the things that we can sometimes surprise them, mentally prepare them what they're going to experience, and give them a little overview of what we're going to be doing. And we do offer quiz on the tour, and we give them little prizes. They never expected that. That's something that we go beyond our
Mm.
call of work, to make it
Yeah.
exciting. And
That's
typically we
wonderful.
have children with families. We always pay attention to the children. We'll appoint
Mm.
a child to become the marshal of the group. So that marshal will have to be with me, and will have to help and keep everybody together. So that's
Mm.
the only time that marshal is empowered to tell his parent off, or tell his parent, not typically off, but his parent to follow
Advise the
him. Yeah.
parents.
And so the parents just find it amusing. And sometimes the kids are very shy. They don't know how to react to that. But there's some kids who are really pretty open to it, you know. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, we recognize the effort. We give them a little gift so that they never forget. And we tell them that
Mm.
now you know a little bit about the city. You can bring your schoolmates and your
Wow.
classmates
Yeah.
to tell them, you know, that you know a little bit of the history. You look very smart. People
Mm.
will say, "How do you know all this?" Then you can say you read a lot of books. So these are
That's
some things that we
wonderful.
do, because our walks are child friendly. And if you really want the whole society to understand that heritage, but it should not only be left to the adults. The kids need to know it, and
Yeah.
that's why our walks are child friendly. And
Yeah.
we try to have fun, because for us, 2 hours of doing the tour, you know, we need to make friends with the people. We ask people what do they do, where do they come, and everybody is sharing their opinion, giving us their information. We learn
Mm.
so much from them. In fact, we're still learning. Every day we're learning. It never stops.
Yeah.
It's a life journey.
Yeah.
I'm even
Yeah.
surprised that sometimes you get people telling you certain things that we never knew. Maybe those are what you call oral history,
Mm.
stories about, you know, it's the oral history that we're really looking for. So, in preparation of our work, we had to go to that community and find friends who knows their parents or grandparents who are in the years, 80 years, who lived
Mm.
down the street. Tell us what was life like there, you know. Um,
Ah, wow.
so some of the things
That's
that we
great.
learn is just amazing. It may not be relevant to add into our storytelling, but the fact that it gives us a wider sense of how the society had changed. You know,
Yeah.
I was surprised when we were looking at old maps that were done under the British administration. You could see some of the street names, some of the drains. You could see what was what and where was where. And at that Jalan Pangong, that theater road in Petalings in Chinatown,
Mm.
there was a massive slaughterhouse.
Mm.
Yeah. And then there was a coolie depot. What was this coolie depot doing there? Who created this coolie depot? Why is it so important to tell this? You know, who initiated this? What sort of contribution did they make? Why is it
Mm.
some of the so we point out some of these wonderful things to them.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to know all this, right? But before I tell a story of my own, just want to invite all our viewers to drop us a comment, ask us the question. Let's have a conversation together. I don't want this to be like a conversation just to be between me and Jane. We'd like to hear from you as well. So if you have a question or comment, just drop it into the comment box, and we will love to have a conversation with you as well.
You know,
Yeah, back to your point about getting stories about an area. I remember I wrote a biography for ex uh, special branch officer who spent his entire life fighting the communists,
that's
and
interesting.
he was 85 years old when I wrote the book for him, and he was talking about growing up in Sentul at the railway works,
Ah, my uncle
right?
worked there in the central work.
Yeah. So 85, that's like 1930s,
Yeah,
right? So
unbelievable.
and hearing him describe the place, and I've been there once. The actor studio is there, I think, or one of the theater groups, and that
The
place is just
performing arts.
yeah. Oh yeah, Calpac, that's right.
Yeah,
So that place is right now is abandoned, right? And if you didn't know the history behind it, that would just be like another abandoned piece of land that the developer just wants to snap up one day, right? I'm sure that's in the pipeline by now. But
yeah.
if we knew how important that place was, not just to Malaysia, but to the British Empire, I think that really would change the way we see Malaysia today,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I didn't realize how important strategically Malaysia was to so many powers around in the world.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
the whole idea of us doing this walking tour is to have a more intimate conversation with them, but at the same time to impart relevant stories uh, that they can associate with, and at the same time give them a sense of how that place had developed and why it had developed. If it wasn't for the tin, would Kuala Lumpur be there? I asked
Hmm.
this question to everybody. How did Kuala Lumpur grow? If it wasn't for tin, where would we be? You know, so
Hmm.
every city has its own beginning. Ours is a beautiful one. I would say it's very romantic. So people either came to the city in those days, I mean 160 years ago, either for labor or either to do trade. And that
Hmm.
was the two very important activity that was very popular. And why did the British come here?
Hmm.
What did the Japanese do? So in our tours, we set a parameter, we set a scope, because we feel that sharing certain aspects of the cultural heritage is important. If you take it away and ignore it, then nobody will have um, understanding of it. What
Hmm.
we found as we go along with our tours, particularly our walking tours, we noticed when we were doing our research how the society has changed.
Hmm.
And I'm making reference to Chinatown.
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
Chinatown came to being. Is Chinatown an official name? Or was it created? How do you
Hmm.
define Chinatown? What is the boundary? And just because there's an enclave of a particular race, you then define it that way. But we notice that there is a change in the way the third generation and the fourth generation kids of
Hmm.
Chinatown coming back to their roots. Either they
Hmm.
continue their generational business, or they use the property that they have to generate business. Either they go into
Hmm.
F&B, or they go into entertainment business. But that's
Hmm.
becoming very interesting. But the point here is that the third generation, fourth generation, the families are encouraging their kids, their children, to carry this legacy. And that's
Hmm.
something we want to tell people. It's something that we cannot ignore. People say, well, I never knew that. And
Yeah.
we encourage people who come on our walk to interface and have conversation with the owners of the business. Whether it's a
Hmm.
short conversation or a hello or whatever. Um, that's what we do typically on our tour.
And I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting, as you said, because the first generation always usually is poor, and they encourage the second generation not to continue in this business because it's a poor
I've
person's
heard
business,
that kind of stories. Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
the second generation will leave the coop and they'll do their professional work somewhere else, and then the third generation starts to wonder, hey, my grandparents, or my great grandparents have this heritage thing going on, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, and maybe it's worth revisiting, right? So it just goes in a cycle, and I think, yeah, and probably they feel a sense of disconnect that I have, right? And there's this desire to really revisit the roots and
Yeah.
rediscover our heritage,
Yeah.
and I think that's so precious, rediscovering our heritage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
But I do want to touch on something before we're actually running out of time. It's already nine
uh,
fifteen. My
all
goodness,
right. I want to
time
talk a little
flies.
bit about my virtual tours as well.
Yes, you are the
Yeah.
first Malaysian to offer virtual tours when the first MCO hit. Tell us more about that.
It was a very unexpected opportunity. Um, I've heard about virtual reality because my nephew is doing virtual reality degree,
Hmm.
and he had said, Auntie Jane, have you ever thought of putting your tours into this virtual digital version? And I was said, well, show me. I don't know how. How? I couldn't fathom it. Would that work? So I sat on it for some time, and then came LokaLocal. They are a home-based, homegrown online platform providers for tours, and
Mm.
I've been working with them ever since I was doing the Royal Klangtown Heritage Walk. And so they came to me and said, Jane, have you ever had any experience in virtual tours? Yes, I said I have been on some virtual tours ever since this COVID, but the virtual tours that they were doing were on slides. I mean, people were
Mm.
doing presentation. Somebody would put a whole set of slides and sit in the basement somewhere and tell stories about that area. But this one was slightly different because the technology would give you a bit more of that motion, that
Mm.
aerial view, that street view. So, yeah, we decided that we'll do. So I had the content and they had the technology. And so it was done within a week, and
Wow.
everything was looped in. We decided to add all maps, all photos, just like what we do. But I
Mm.
noticed that the virtual tour is far more intensive than the physical walk. Why
Mm.
so? Because at every swipe of your mouse, you've already got another image. Whereas when you're walking, you move from one place to another, you still have a bit of breathing gap. And I
Mm.
think she's saying you have been on my virtual tour,
Yeah.
so you could see it's pretty intensive. But
Yeah.
again, it's tailored to different audience, different people. We keep adding more information to it. So I thought, how am I going to monetize this? Now that the idea is there and I liked it, I thought so. I went into a bit of thinking, how
Mm.
am I going to get this out to the world? So I decided to use all my connection, all my friends from overseas, and also introduce this product to the convention centers, because they may
Mm.
have conferences, and they in between their conferences they could organize a half an hour or 40 minutes virtual tour, and I've done quite a few. So I've
Mm.
had audiences from many different countries, who are on conferences, and of course individually as well, people who are just curious. But I must say, the Malaysians don't understand the power of virtual tour. They say, no, no, no,
Mm.
I'm going to wait until the border open, then I'll join the tour. Uh, it's not something that people understand. They say to me, oh, virtual tour, is it? Just give me the link. I'll watch it on my own. But they don't realize that this virtual tour is actually another way of me conducting my tours. That means I'm using a video conferencing platform, and I'm
Mm.
going to be there live and talking. And then I can see all of them. We're going to have conversation and at the same time move around with the tour. And they said,
Mm.
wow, it's still something that we have not gone far. But I must tell you that when the COVID started in in 2020, there was an emergence of um, businesses in the UK
Mm.
and the US, where many people who knew how to do online platform businesses started to just get guides from all over the world to
Mm.
put their products. And guess what? During the COVID, it was the tourist guides profession that was marketing and selling their country from their home. And it really
Mm.
saved a lot of people's life, people who were desperate, people who were bored. Now, I've been to 221 countries ever since, from, from South America right up to China. And I've seen so many wonderful places, all done by tourist guides. And here in
Mm.
Malaysia, we're all very resistant. We don't see the future in it. And I thought,
Right.
why don't I do it? After all, I love talking. Tour guides love talking. And so why don't I use the technology to help me? I'm still
Mm.
marketing it. It's not easy. I'm still marketing it. And so far, the ones who find it very useful are the university students, typically
Mm.
those doing town planning and architecture
You
courses.
mean Malaysian
In
university
Malaysian,
students?
yes. So
Right.
I have a whole team of them.
So the
And
market is
also,
still catching on in Malaysia.
yeah. And now with they say, oh, the borders are going to be open, like they think it's not going to be it. But I tell you, Um, I'm going to be doing live streaming very soon. The ones that you see
Mm.
me doing is virtual reality technology that sits
Yep.
on the system. But I will be going out with my camera, with my gimbal, and I'll be live
Yeah.
streaming pretty soon. And
That is amazing.
so I've been
You're
given
really
an
moving
opportunity
with the context of
because
the
there is
time.
money to be made,
Yeah.
and you just put it on international platforms. So I've had companies from Canada, from US, from Germany, and from UK asking me, calling me and say, can we have a discussion with you? Can you sell your country? Can you promote your country? I said, sure. I was not ready at that time simply because I was too busy. So it's going to be another kettle of fish, and you have to invest. You have to
Yeah.
invest in the gadget, and it's quite costly. And you got to think about how am I going to how am I going to get the revenue back?
Hmm.
And
Are
doing
you
virtual tour
still
is
the
expensive.
are you still the only one doing online tour guiding?
For virtual reality technology, yes, that means I'm the only one using the virtual technology and doing it consistently. But the
Right.
other one, the live streaming on site, that one, I think we have a few right now. They've gone
Hmm.
not to any local major platform. There are one or two local platform here, but a good
Hmm.
number of them are doing it for international market because they have that online platform has got a worldwide network. They
Right.
spend a lot of money networking. So, it was a complete different sense for me that tour guides who were either very dependent on travel agent for work suddenly became independent, and they were
Hmm.
driving their businesses. So if you
Hmm.
know a product, why do you need to keep quiet about that product? Go and sell it and use the
Yeah.
technology to help you. So that
Yeah.
has taken a different shift altogether. And
Technology has become the greatest what
yeah,
democratizer.
and yeah, absolutely. And people were pivoting to doing tours in technology version, and at the same time not losing sense of the communication bit.
Mm. But
Everybody.
what drives you to do what you do, right? I mean, as you mentioned just now, there are still many people who don't understand this, either on the either on the audience side or even the tour operator side. What drives you to pivot? What drives you to do to
It's
something new?
simple word. It's number one. It's passion. Passion.
Hmm.
Now, some people say if you have passion, you can't make money, but that's not true. You got to have a passion. And I also said to myself that I know how to do this. I can do this. It's all about communication. Why don't I continue connecting with people of the world by using technology and reaching out to them? And so behind the scene, there was a lot of preparation to be done. If you don't
Hmm.
start somewhere, I was very skeptical at one time. I could not see how I was going to uh, strategize this. But as I went along, bit by bit, day by day, I kept introducing new ideas. I kept thinking of new ways, and talking to people around the world has, in a way, inspired me a lot. And I thought I'll continue doing this. There is a big market in foreign countries. There's this culture. I must say this to you. It's called the senior communities.
Hmm.
Senior community is a word that people use in Canada, in America, and in Europe, where a lot of old folks, senior ages, would sit in their home, not be able to travel. This market was so big for them.
Hmm.
There was already an existing market. And so it's so nice to sit at home and just watch, the mountains of Canada, or, Machu Picchu. I think I've been to Machu Picchu 3 times with 3 different guides and heard different stories. It's amazing. Um, it's just amazing. And you can chat with them. You can't really have voice communication with them, but you can
Hmm.
chat with them in text
Right.
wise. But the friendship that I've built with these people is just tremendous. So I'm going to be starting to promote the Kuala Lumpur Tower. I
Hmm.
had a chat with the CEO the other day that I would like to go up on the observation deck, and I need your permission to do that. Of course, for them, they want to make sure that they have the right person to do all the necessary
I'm sure
uh,
they have the right person in you,
orientation. So,
Jane.
so I'm just waiting to go up there within the next few days to show to the world. So that's going to be something magical. And I must say that the virtual tours have generated a different sense of business where people who watch this place, will say, I want to go to Japan. I want to catch up with you, Eriko, and I want to see
Mm,
that temple. So we're building that relationship, which is something that the tour operators can't do. That's a dynamic shift. And I think the
right.
tour operators need to realize that they were not the only ones selling the destination, which was what people had understood it to be.
Mm,
Today, because of technology and the sort of proliferation of so many online platforms, everybody's going on to online platform.
yeah.
And their audience are from all over the world, but their partners are all tourist guides. Now, how powerful is that?
Yeah.
So
I want
people
I want
don't
to circle
realize
back.
this.
I want to circle back to something that you said just now, which I think is really interesting. You said that when you first started, when you first decided to go into virtual tourism, you had no idea what you were doing, right? But you just went.
Absolutely not. I was just very intrigued by the technology. If it wasn't for my nephew, I wouldn't have understood what it is. But the fact that I had um, a very successful local platform provider, particularly
Mm,
LokaLocal, I mean, they
local.
deserve my highest praise. They had the technology, and we sat down and we ran through. So within one day, we went around and took pictures, and
Mm,
we stitched them all together. So you could see an aerial view of the meeting point of two rivers in
yeah,
one go.
that's
You
right.
could see
I
everything. It's
remember
such
that.
a
Yes,
stunning
the drone
stunning
shots. Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so you tell stories based on that. And because these images are real, although they
And
are
I think
not.
the key point that I take away from that is you don't have to know everything and have all the answers before you start,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
I think that's what stops a lot of people from doing a lot of things, right? I can't see where this is going,
Yeah.
so I won't even start.
Absolutely.
So
I'm
yeah.
even thinking now, how will the technology change in another year or two? And I'm now keeping in touch with the latest form of gadget. Even on
Mm.
my tours, you could use a goggle and watch it in 3D,
Yeah, I
especially
mean
kids who like that.
that technology is really going to come up with Facebook's commitment to it now. So yeah, so I think kudos to you, right? Not seeing the end of the road yet. You've already taken the first step, and look where you are now. Getting calls from all over the world, new products coming out.
Well,
That
I
would
need to
never have
create a
happened if you didn't take the first step.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to create a well, from LokaLocal's point of view, they needed to identify someone who already had the skill or the content, who had the content, who knew who could drive this. All I had to do was to learn how to use it. And it took me a while, but with their help, I became quite I would say an expert. Uh, so you know what she's saying? Let's invite some of the people here to join our walks when they can. They
Yeah.
can go to our Facebook. It's called the Free Walk Kuala Lumpur Unscripted. That's our brand name. It's on a tipping base. So we believe in this culture of reciprocate. You reciprocate.
Wait.
Um,
We have to clarify, right? It's a free walk and
it's
entirely
it's a
tipping
tipping
based.
base. It's a
Yes.
tipping base. Well, the
Yeah.
brand name is called Free Walk Kuala Lumpur
Yeah.
Unscripted.
Okay.
So we have a minimum tipping
Free,
guideline that we.
guys. Free, magic word there. But of course, tips.
Yeah. We've had some really wonderful Malaysians who've been very generous with us, and
Mm,
you know, I mean, there are those who can't afford to pay us, so we are okay with that. As long as they give us a good review or they tell
yeah.
their friends about this.
All
So
right.
yeah, we
Jane,
get all.
remember to put the link to the Facebook page in the comment section later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'll just give you the free work Kuala Lumpur Unscripted Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's already 9:30.
absolutely. It's
Time
amazing.
really flies on this show. I don't know about you, but it just zip past like that.
Yeah.
And I think let's end with this. Your three key takeaways for us tonight. What would that be?
You know, there's so many takeaways. Number one is that for me, from my perspective, I was able to continue doing my storytelling in a different arena, and that I can still continue to communicate with people and network with people using this technology. At the same time, um, build that relationship with people, tell people around the world that we have a beautiful nation,
Mm,
we are the ambassadors. So that's what I saw in this whole ambit of moving into the virtual reality business. It's really very how would I say, inspiring. It's completely different. Yeah. Chee-Seng, would you be able to put the word free walk Kuala Lumpur unscripted onto your page somewhere? Yeah,
in the comment section.
in the comment section. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that would be nice. It's a
We
Facebook,
walk.
so they can put a like. I think some of them are already on our page. Yeah, free
Wait, let
walk
me
Kuala Lumpur
find the link.
unscripted.
Okay, you keep talking about the takeaways. I'll find the link.
you know, um, for people who could not travel to different parts of the world because COVID has halted all sorts of travel, and this was in a way a compliment to people. We offered an avenue for those who are interested in all things heritage. I must confess that Malaysians don't like walking. Banyak complain, panas lah, tak mau lah. There are those who come and we really congratulate them for being brave. Either they're crazy or they're just pure curious. So that would be that's my giveaway for people, and my fellow guides are enjoying it. Um, we want to keep growing and we want it to become big. We want to have more people join us. We will create more trails in time to come. We actually originally have 6 trails that we just started off with 2. We want to see what the response is like. And touch wood, it's been very encouraging. And we like to offer more of these tours for corporate sectors. I've even included my virtual tour for training, communication
Mm,
training. We put in 15 minutes, 20 minutes of virtual tour. We take them to a spot in the city and do the story while they're sitting in the office talking about communication. So we give them quiz. I've done all that. So
wow,
it's something
that
very
is like
different for them.
so many
Yeah.
branches. Uh,
Yeah.
from that one decision, right?
It's a very tough arena to do because I have to spend a lot of time educating everybody how it works. I have to show and tell how it
Mm,
works. It's something that they cannot fathom. So I spent a lot of time investing in that, hoping that I could close the deal, and I have. So yeah, that's something that's exciting. Yeah.
yep.
Well, thank you so much, Chee-Seng. I mean, I enjoyed having a conversation with you. I hope everyone else has enjoyed listening to our conversation.
I
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed speaking to you, Jane. And well, I wish we had more time to talk about
Yeah.
your experiences, but I guess we need a few days. You
Yeah.
have so
Maybe
many
we can
experiences.
organize a virtual tour for them of these 2 virtual
Yes.
tours are basically the walking tours that we have, and we digitalize them. That's all. They are in the
Do you have a
virtual
link
version.
to the virtual tours?
Actually, if they go to the website, the Free Walk Kuala Lumpur unscripted website,
Okay.
and then there is this virtual tour link, and it will take them to that platform where they can book there. It's only 50 ringgit. We made it so cheap. Everybody's saying, what, 50 ringgit for 60 for about an hour and a half? Yeah, yeah. I said we want to have more Malaysians to
Okay.
experience it. So
I'm
yeah,
going to put that on.
it's on our website, freewalkkualalumpur.unscripted.com, and the tours are there. You just have to click the virtual tour and it will take you to the platform. We have 2 right now, and it will tell you roughly what it is. There are some reviews there that people
Oh
can read
yeah.
and have an understanding.
Do you plan to expand to other heritage areas in Malaysia?
I will. Not no, only to Kuala Lumpur only. Only in Kuala Lumpur. That will be my specialty.
Okay.
Um, It will be all the old bits in Kuala Lumpur. So that's what I want to do. It will be a one-stop center for anyone who's coming into the country. That if they love walking tours, if they love tours on foot, this is it. Because doing tours on foot is, environmentally friendly. It's healthy.
Mm,
It gives you a lot of bonding,
yeah,
um,
and it's,
and
you get to really experience, absorb
yeah.
the culture of the
It's
area.
the funny crankiness that people give us, the weird behaviors they have. Sometimes the question they ask is very bizarre. They're not sure whether they're asking a question or making a statement. So it's very hard to figure that out. Malaysians generally don't ask you a question, they make a statement and expect you to answer it. So I guess I'm typically English in that way. If you ask a question, that I'll answer. If you don't, you make a statement, I will not. I'll just say, okay, all right.
All right. Okay, we
Thank
are
you.
at the end of our show. Thank you so much, Jane, for joining us tonight, and thank you everyone for joining us. We didn't have any comments or questions tonight, but I do hope that you had a great time together. Very
Yes.
entertaining, definitely. And I do want to share with you what we're going to be doing, or who are we going to be talking to next week. Before we go, let me bring up my window. Where is my window? Why is it not?
Welcome to the world of technology.
I
Uh,
feel your pain, Jane.
yeah. When you want to do technology tours, you've got to make sure the internet is good. There's no power failure. I had a power failure once,
Oh
and I
God.
had people from Holland, and well, then you call them again for the next few days. Uh, oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
All right. So yes, this is going to be our topic for the next Leaders Dojo. How do you lead a
Right.
team of people who hate each other?
Oh,
Jane, you lead
man.
a team. I hope they don't hate each other, right?
No, I
No.
think
Okay.
they're really
So,
lovely people that I have. I make sure
all
that
right.
I do a proper profile on them first.
Uh huh. Now that you mentioned profile, Pete Pereira has developed a couple of tools, in fact, right? Well, it's based on another tool, but he has actually taken it much further. We do have personality tools that we use in corporate settings, but he has developed a tool to help you measure how these people fit with each other, where they fit and where they don't fit, so that you can see how you can build that team coherence, right? By
Mm,
identifying where they can have potentially have conflict and where they work well together. So
right.
don't miss this episode. It's really, really interesting. I'm going to be speaking to Pete Pereira and specifically how to lead a team of people. Okay,
Oh,
it's a
I'll
bit
definitely
sensational,
join.
right? He
Yeah.
asked me to tone it down, but I said, nah, no, we got to have this title. This title is more interesting. How to lead a team of people who hate each other. Jane, you were going to say something.
No, I said I will definitely join them. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
if they really hate each other, it should not be there in the first place. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean, you have a team that loves each other, so
But then again,
mm,
the hate can come from many quadrants. Yeah.
yeah,
They
that's
could
right.
they have a lot of content. They could be something that just have to work around them.
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
is well balanced, so I see
yeah.
that in my team. As long
Mm.
as they
And
have the right
that is
attitude.
the key word, right? No,
Yeah,
nobody is perfect, but
yeah,
we need to find where the edges are and how they fit in or don't fit in, and how to manage the team. So that's what
absolutely.
that episode is going to be all about. So I hope every one of you can make the time. It's on March 8th, as usual. That's on the second Tuesday evening. All
Yeah.
right. So with that, thank you very much, Jane, for joining the show tonight, and
Well,
thank
thank
you,
you for
everyone.
inviting me, Chee-Seng. It
Very
was an
glad,
honor to.
very glad to have
Yeah.
you. Right. With that, let me wish everyone a good night, good evening, and have a great week ahead.
Ya, jumpa lagi. Selamat malam.